Tracking strong winds and areas of rain and snow here across the state. I'll let you know what you can expect for your morning drive and your best chance for thunderstorms.
I did not expect it to be that bad.
A dust storm on I-15 in southern Utah. What Utah Highway Patrol troopers recommend if you're driving and come across one of these while on the roads.
A derogatory term is plastered across mountains, lakes, and flats here in Utah. I'll have more on how the feds hope to change that.
Oh, wow. Wow.
After a slap that shocked the Academy Awards last night, what Will Smith is saying about the incident tonight.
Soaring gas prices have Utahns looking for ways to soften the blow.
It's very inexpensive to operate.
Where some drivers are turning for relief, and why this solution may actually be more difficult.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
After a picture-perfect weekend across Utah, we saw a radical change in our weather with rain, wind, and even dust storms today. And that change continues into the overnight hours.
We have team coverage for you tonight, starting with Utah's Weather Authority, Allison Krogan. Allison.
Yes. Starting with a beautiful sunset tonight, thanks to all of the clouds that we have here across the state. Right now, it's still very breezy for Moab and into southwest Utah. We're seeing some wind gusts right now, about 20 to 30 miles per hour for Blanding. And as we look across southwest and western Utah, our wind advisory was allowed to expire a few hours early. But for right now, we still have some areas of rain, mostly over the Great Salt Lake this afternoon and evening. We're seeing a little bit of lightning on the north end of the Great Salt Lake, so a few thunderstorms are developing. And then across central Utah, areas of scattered rain, mostly west of I-15 near Beaver and into central and eastern Utah, Capitol Reef over towards Canyonlands, areas of snow coming down towards Bryan Head. So bigger picture, it's an area of low pressure off to our west, off the coast of Southern California. That moves in and it disrupts the weather here across the entire region the next few days. Temperatures still pretty mild right now, around 50 to 60 degrees. We are cooling down with this storm. I'll let you know what the snow levels will be the next few days and your best chance for thunderstorms.
Allison, thank you. In southern Utah, today's strong winds created a dust storm, bringing visibility down to nearly zero.
Scary, dangerous situation. Fox 13 News reporter Brian Schnee spoke to a driver who experienced the dust cloud firsthand and explains what you should do in a low visibility situation.
One of Utah's most devastating accidents in the state's history took place on I-15 in Millard County last July. Dust created by a farmer working nearby on a field picked up by high winds created nearly impossible driving conditions. You see the result here. That pileup involved more than 20 vehicles, took the lives of 8 people. Now, here's a new video from I-15 just south of Cedar City on Monday. You can see a dust storm here and the driver proceeding through these dangerous conditions.
I did not expect it to be that bad, to be honest.
Driving from Cedar City to Hurricane on Monday afternoon, Christian Bonanno encountered this.
I must have just been 5 or 10 minutes outside of Cedar City, and when I was coming down the hill, you could see it from a distance, just all the red dust blowing across the highway.
Dust kicked up in the area, limiting visibility for drivers on I-15.
These type of dust events are actually fairly frequent in Utah.
Timothy Wright, a climatologist here in Utah, analyzed the dust video and explained how these storms come to be.
More looks like it's just strong winds associated with the storm system moving into Utah. And so it's kicking up the dust and it's just blowing it. It's kind of keeping it near the ground.
Wright says these dust events are more common in the spring and fall when storm systems come through. He anticipates if we don't get significant precipitation, they could become even more frequent.
Visibility went down to like 10 feet, so it wasn't that much fun.
When it comes to driving towards or through one of these dust storms, Utah Highway Patrol troopers recommend avoiding this situation entirely.
Keep your eyes up and looking ahead. Driving into a dust storm isn't something that just mysteriously happens. It's something you'll be able to see from a distance.
Which was the case Monday afternoon.
If you're driving and you have to enter a dust area, reduce your speed to what you believe that you can safely drive through it and stop if you come upon somebody, and just continue to move.
That's the key takeaway here. Troopers advise that you keep your vehicle moving, but at a slower speed if you can anticipate the dust storm from a distance. Pull off the road to the shoulder or a bit further if you can and wait it out. In the studio, Brian Schnee, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Severe weather taking people's lives on the roads was a national headline today. At least 3 people are dead and roughly 20 more hurt after a massive pileup on I-81 in Pennsylvania this morning. Officials believe it happened after a snow squall clouded visibility. The road was already slick from snow. Dozens of vehicles were involved, including multiple semi-trucks.
Back here at home, 2 teen brothers are in critical condition tonight after a crash with a water truck in Logan earlier this morning. Police say the brothers' car stopped at a stop sign near 10th West and 18th South. The water truck slammed into the driver's side of the car, pushing them into another car. The 18-year-old driver was trapped, and firefighters had to use the jaws of life to pull him out. No word on the conditions of the other people involved.
Police in Orem have identified the woman killed in a homicide over a broken vape cartridge. Saturday night, officers were called to a house at 800 South, 700 West. The suspect, 27-year-old Daniel Padilla Ang, called 911 to report he had strangled his girlfriend, 20-year-old Sandra Robles, and that he needed to be taken in. Padilla Ang has a history of domestic violence. He now sits in the Utah County Jail.
Salt Lake City police have now identified the suspect accused of exchanging gunfire with officers after an armed carjacking. Police say 38-year-old Matthew Cieslak of Idaho stole a car at gunpoint on Saturday night. Police say he kept driving when 2 officers tried to stop him, and at some point during the chase, the suspect and the officers fired shots at each other. That suspect was hit and killed. The officers were not hurt.
A piece of Salt Lake City's historic Fisher Mansion has been vandalized and stolen. The Utah Preservation Society says a Victorian-era fence was damaged and large pieces taken sometime over the weekend. The Fisher Mansion was built in 1893 for Albert Fisher, founder of Utah's largest brewery at the time. The Utah Preservation Society says it is in the process of filing a police report.
The Department of Interior now working to make a derogatory Native American slur history, removing it from Utah peaks, lakes, and flats.
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser shows us what this move means for women in Utah's Native communities.
Squaw Peak looms over Orem and Provo. It's a popular mountain and lookout over Utah County, but soon the feds hope to change its name to something with a better meaning.
It's disheartening, and it's frustrating that we're still today, 2022, that we're still having to see these words.
Davina Smith is part of the Diné Nation and is the tribal coordinator for the National Parks Conservation Association. She says that term is hurtful, specifically toward Indigenous women.
When I hear that name, it is really literally equivalent to calling any other person of color the names that they had to endure.
This initiative is nothing new to the city of Provo. In 2017, a local group tried to rename the peak, and last year, a state bill passed to make the application process easier to change the names.
If we are going to continue to move forward to write or to correct this, it needs to happen now.
According to the Department of Interior, there are around 50 landmarks in Utah that use that term and over 600 nationwide. The department established a derogatory geographic names task force and hosted tribal consultation sessions just last week to brainstorm replacement names.
Right now, being used in a derogatory way to refer to Indians, why not use a positive? And I think Indian tribes would probably be the best to decide that.
Some of the proposed names for Squaw Mountain here at Provo include First Left Fork Rock Canyon or just Rock Canyon. Another example would be Squaw Flat up in Weber County. Proposed names for that include Pine Canyon, Bear River Range, and Woodruff Creek.
We want to try and all get along. We want to try and all be humane with each other. So that would be a big start for the future generations.
Reporting in Provo, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Did the sunny weekend sink our hopes of salvaging a water year? We'll look at exactly what happened in Utah's mountains.
We are in a lull in Utah. This is an amazing time. We have very few cases.
The state of Utah is winding down its COVID-19 response. What's changing and just how much the pandemic cost our state.
Oh, wow! Wow! And it may be the most unforgettable moment in Oscars history. Tonight, the fallout after Will Smith slapped Chris Rock on national television.
The Jazz put out their injury report for tomorrow's game against the Clippers. I'll tell you who's on it, and more importantly, who's not.
Oh, wow!
It was the slap seen around the world. Actor Will Smith smacked comedian Chris Rock in the face on stage at the Academy Awards last night after Rock made a joke about Smith's wife Jada and her hair loss in recent years. The Academy says it will launch a formal review of the incident. This moment has now led to polarized reactions over the past 24 hours throughout social media. And tonight, Will Smith is apologizing for his actions. In a statement posted to Instagram, Smith says his behavior was, quote, unacceptable and inexcusable. He went on to say, quote, I'm embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. There is no place for violence in a world of love and kindness.
Outside of that drama last night, the movie Coda made history when it took home the Best Picture award. But leaders in Utah's deaf community say the movie has been changing lives for months now. CODA is an acronym for Child of Deaf Adult. The movie Coda depicts Ruby Rossi, the only hearing member of a deaf family, and her struggles to balance obligations to her parents and her love of music. Today, we sat down with leaders of the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind to talk about the film's impact on them and their students.
I mean, there was other deaf people that can accomplish the same thing, and it's nice to hear that the hearing people will be able to recognize that.
The movie Coda also took home Oscars for Best Screenplay Adaptation and Best Supporting Actor. And here is some movie trivia for you. Millicent Simmons, who acted in the movie A Quiet Place, is deaf and grew up in Utah and is a former student at the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind.
A big night for her.
Yep.
The recent stretch of warm weather means wildfire season is arriving ahead of schedule. Right now, the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands is monitoring at least 2 new wildfires, one in Tooele County, the other one in Box Elder County. There have already been more than 20 wildfires this month all around the state of Utah. Most have been due to farmers and ranchers burning debris or doing maintenance work around their property.
Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Weather is a really important factor to keep an eye on.
Well, that's Jason Curry with Utah Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. He says wind is usually what makes those small controlled fires simply just get out of hand. And with our drought conditions still in effect, he says it could wind up being an extra long wildfire season in 2022. The taste of summer we had this past weekend is gone for now, but it was warm long enough to have real consequences for our water picture.
Going in depth tonight, Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth has the numbers on the dramatic change one weekend can make.
The beautiful weekend had ugly results for Utah water managers. The small amount of snow in the mountains took a sharp dive well before the ideal time for the spring melt.
2019 was our last really good water year. Almost 21 inches of water in the snow of Utah's mountains in mid-April. Then that sharp dive, sending water downstream fast. Some bonus snow in late May and a second runoff. On March 28th that year, the snowpack was close to its peak, but would hold on for a while. Last year left us in a bad place water-wise, this blue line peaking on March 28th with just 12 inches of water on average, and the runoff would begin on April 1st. Now to this year, a weird water year as shown by the black line, starting strong, then plateauing for months, still staying a tiny bit above last year's totals until this past Friday. the hot weekend starting a steep decline. The median line in green showing a normal year, peaking with 4 more inches of water in the mountains than we have now, and holding on until early April, with the runoff extending to early June.
The changing weather will at least slow the snowmelt, but if that's all it does, that's not good either. To fill the reservoirs, the ideal recipe has just one ingredient and one instruction: a strong snowpack, which we don't really have, then melt it rapidly in late spring so it doesn't slowly soak into the ground. That's looking unlikely too. In the newsroom, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, we do have some storms from the forecast. We're starting to see a line of thunderstorms developing over the north end of the Great Salt Lake right now. I'll get to that in just a second. But first, wanted to show you some great pictures from tonight's sunset. Spanish Fork, thank you so much to Stacy and Jake for sending this picture in. And then another beautiful sunset tonight coming in from McKell. Just what a stunning view we have had the last few nights. Now, it's very gusty out there, so we still have some strong winds blending up through Moab. Across west central Utah, we're seeing our wind about 30 miles per hour, but the main story for tonight is the wind will be calming down. So let me show you this. By 3 o'clock in the morning, we have calm wind for the most part here across the state. Then it picks up again tomorrow afternoon and evening. So by 6:30 tomorrow, central Utah, just east of Richfield, we'll see some wind gusts about 35 to 45 miles per hour. It'll calm down again tomorrow night. And then by Wednesday at 9 a.m., same thing, central Utah, we're tracking some very strong wind gusts, potentially more than 45 miles per hour. So we got a storm on the way. Right now, we're already seeing it. It's off the coast of Southern California. We're seeing those impacts here across Utah. As we look at our winter storm impacts over the next 3 days here across Utah, the areas of light blue that you're seeing, those are minor impacts, very limited, I should say, actually. So that's going to be mainly for the mountains. Up into the Uintas, we could see some minor impacts out of the storm system. That's what you're seeing in the yellow. And then into southern Utah, we'll see some scattered minor impacts, but overall, the impacts out of this storm very limited as far as the precipitation goes. It's this area of low pressure off the coast of Southern California moving inland, and our wind is going to be shifting into more of a northwesterly flow as we head into tomorrow afternoon. Now, here's that thunderstorm that I promised you I'm tracking. This right now is stretching from about Plymouth over towards the Great Salt Lake. We've seen a lot of lightning with this over the last half hour or so. It's going to continue moving towards the east, so we could see some brief thunderstorm activity with some brief heavy rainfall, but it could potentially see a little bit of hail out of this and a little bit of lightning. But overall, the main story for tonight is going to be calming winds and chances for rain. Nothing too major for tonight. So we look across eastern Utah, some areas of lighter precipitation, light snow coming down. Snow levels very high out of the system, mainly about 7,500 feet. It's going to be breezy again tomorrow afternoon. We'll mainly have a break from the precipitation Tuesday morning. It's going to fire up again tomorrow afternoon, and that's when our best chances for thunderstorms. Right now it's 60 degrees here in Salt Lake, just about. We have winter weather advisories for the Uintas and for the mountains across central Utah, and then overnight here in Salt Lake, temperatures only dropping to about 50 degrees. Breezy at times, that calms down after midnight. And then tomorrow for St. George, you're in the 60s, 70s return Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. By Saturday and Sunday, you're back close to 80 degrees. Another hot weekend ahead. Here in Salt Lake City, mid-50s tomorrow. Rain and thunderstorms, breezy conditions. Wednesday, a high of 60, a little bit cooler. Thursday, with our next storm arriving. We'll talk more about tomorrow's storm, how much precipitation you can expect, and also if this warm-up is going to last.
All right, we'll look forward to it. Thanks, Allison. Day 33 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and the war has no end in sight. New tonight, what the United States is sending to Europe to aid Ukrainians in their resistance. We have breaking news happening right now in Salt Lake City. Police can be seen from traffic cameras blocking several southbound lanes of State Street near 17th South. Fox 13 News is working to confirm further details, but you can see this live action right now. We have a crew on the way to the scene. As we learn more, we will keep you updated on the air and online at fox13now.com. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky is indicating a willingness to declare neutrality to secure peace.
Meanwhile, Russia is shifting its military focus to grinding down Ukrainian forces in the east. A senior U.S. defense says while Russia has not attempted to intercept any weapons shipments to Ukraine, it does appear Russia is drawing on reinforcements from Georgia. Missile strikes hit within just 2 miles of the city center of Lviv. It is the farthest attack west we've seen so far.
We live in basements. There's no gas, no electricity. We melt snow to have at least something to drink. We cook on open fires under shelling and bombs, just because if you don't, you will have nothing to eat.
We're also learning that the U.S. Navy is sending 6 jets to Germany with electronic jamming capabilities. These will be used by NATO and will not be flying over Ukraine.
In other national news today, President Biden unveiled his budget proposal for the next fiscal year. Pentagon officials hailed the designation for the Department of Defense.
The American people can be confident that this year's budget request of $773 billion ensures the Joint Force remains the most lethal and capable military on the planet.
Also in the budget, more than $900 billion is being proposed for domestic programs. There is also a 20% minimum tax on households worth more than $100 million, which the White House says will reduce the deficit by about $360 billion over the next 10 years. Congress has until the end of September to pass a budget.
The so-called Don't Say Gay bill is now law in Florida. Today, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Parental Rights and Education bill, banning instruction about sexual orientation and gender identity in some classrooms. The bill sparked debate across the nation after it was introduced in January. Since then, students have protested with school walkouts and demonstrations. Governor DeSantis says he is standing firm against critics.
We will continue to recognize that in the state of Florida, parents have a fundamental role in the education, healthcare, and well-being of their children.
The Walt Disney Company, which employs 75,000 people in Florida, is vowing to help repeal the controversial legislation, saying it never should have been passed or signed into law.
It's truly unprecedented.
State government gets ready to wind down its response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll tell you how much COVID-19 has cost the state of Utah.
High gas prices are pushing some drivers to ditch the pump, the demand for electric, and why right now it comes with problems of its own.
Meanwhile, you continue spring football. We'll have a report from Provo up next.
I think we all want to get back to normal, that's for sure.
The state of Utah's response to COVID-19 will start winding down this week.
It has been a long 2 years, and it did not come cheap. Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow has the story from Utah's Capitol Hill.
We are in a lull in Utah. This is an amazing time. We have very few cases, so it is reasonable to pull back.
The state epidemiologist says Utah is ready to start drawing down its response to COVID-19. Mass testing sites are closing because of lack of demand. The strain on hospitals is starting to ease. Since 2020, more than 927,000 people in Utah have contracted the virus. More than 4,700 have died. Across the state, COVID-19 transmission is now low.
With the level of immunity we have right now in our community, we think we should be very well protected unless there is a big change.
Dr. Leisha Nolan says the immunity level is based on people who are either vaccinated or have recovered from COVID-19. She urges more people to get booster shots.
We really want people to go get their booster, and that's because we can see it has a huge impact.
But COVID remains a presence, and Dr. Nolan says you do need to assume some personal risk.
For people who are vaccinated, the risk is exceptionally low. And so therefore, it's reasonable to go and do things in society and have good community interactions. And if somebody feels that they still want to wear a mask in those situations, That's their choice. I think that's totally reasonable.
The Utah State Legislature terminated mask mandates earlier this year, but some still have concerns. The Utah Academy of Family Physicians says with decreasing cases, it understands the desire by the state to reduce the number of testing sites, but hopes it doesn't lead to an undue burden for those seeking testing or unable to afford private tests. If case counts grow, the group says it encourages state health officials to reevaluate. Dr. Nolan says she is watching the BA2 variant, which is causing case increases around the globe.
And I think we should expect we are going to have an increase in cases, but I think at the same time, we know what we need to do. And we don't need the same approach we've had during the other waves of the pandemic. We can do this with a different approach.
The state isn't dropping everything and just walking away. The governor's office will keep some contracts open, just in case we need to ramp up again.
In the event we get another surge, you just flip the switch.
Fox 13 News asked for data on how much the state has spent since the beginning of the pandemic. The total cost to taxpayers, more than $30 billion.
It's truly unprecedented.
That's bigger than the entire state budget, which is $26 billion. It's covered everything from personal protective equipment to testing and economic boosts. But most of it is covered by federal stimulus dollars.
Well, so far, I think it's been money well spent. As it's been allocated, I think that Utah's been pretty prudent in how the state has handled it.
On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
And for those of you who have been tracking daily cases, that will end this week. The State Health Department will begin reporting data on a weekly basis, similar to how the agency handles other viruses. The wind down of COVID protocols comes as Utah's 7-day average for new cases dropped even further. It's now at 116 cases a day on average after 255 people tested positive over the past 3 days. Hospitalizations are down as well.
Bob, the Utah Department of Health announced today their testing sites will either be closed or changed to private sites. This will all take effect after March 31st. Fox 13 News visited a site in Taylorsville today that at one point was one of the busiest in the entire state for COVID testing. It was a near ghost town, however, when Fox 13 was there earlier today. A far cry from the thousands of cars that would be there on a daily basis during the height of the pandemic. But no matter what the situation is, workers we spoke with say they will be there to always serve.
Now, we obviously aren't expecting as big a numbers, but we do still maintain all the same readiness, all of our equipment, all of our training. The next outbreak, we'll be ready.
For a full list of sites and what will be closed and what will transfer to private sites, as well as how long they were all open or will be open, just head to our website, fox13now.com.
Does the price of gasoline have you rethinking the kind of car you drive? We'll show you an alternative that may or may not be more attractive.
And with warmer weather, come motorcyclists out on Utah roads. The simple things riders and drivers both need to remember. Welcome back, everyone. With gas prices topping $4 a gallon, some drivers now looking to more economical options, including electric vehicles, sometimes referred to as EVs.
But as Fox 13 News reporter Eliana Sheriff found out, supply chain issues are making finding that new ride difficult.
It gives you a good feeling to have an electric car when gas prices are soaring.
Opening up the butterfly doors of this Model X never gets old for Ron Zarbach. The lifelong Utahn decided to get a Tesla 5 years ago because he wanted to help the environment.
It's very inexpensive to operate. There's no maintenance costs except for tires.
He's glad he ditched your traditional ICE or internal combustion engine vehicle years ago.
When I first got my Tesla, I was a little bit hesitant. I go, is this really going to make it? And now I know that electric cars are here to stay.
But for those looking to adopt EV now, you'll have to have some patience. Many Tesla models are actually now sold out until 2023, even after price increases.
There's a lot of demand on a lot of products, EV included. Chips are a big issue, getting vehicles. You notice that inventories are down.
Craig Bickmore, who's been in the car industry for nearly 35 years, says the demand for EVs will soon be met with nearly all automakers getting on board.
That competition from the EV market is going to be hugely intense. You watch what happens in the next year and a half. you'll have scores to choose from, and the fit and finishes and the variety and the towing capacity.
But for now, electric vehicles are in short supply, making up just over 4% of U.S. sales. Bickmore represents 150 new car dealers in the state of Utah.
All the major manufacturers, which are 34 or 35 of them, are shifting their inventory, shifting their production to EV. That demand for EVs and hybrids, that will be satisfied soon with new models.
It's not just supply that's being built up, it's also infrastructure across our state.
The biggest problem with electric vehicles is where do you charge them, and they charge sometimes slow. But Tesla has superchargers, and they're within 100 miles from any other supercharger.
In Salt Lake City, Eliana Sheriff, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Community always rises above competition, and that leadership should never be lonely.
As part of Utah's Women's History Month, the Utah Jazz are working to empower young women. Fox 13 News got a first-hand look at how some of the state's most powerful women are passing the baton of leadership.
BYU wrapping up spring football this week. Do they feel like they've accomplished everything they hoped they would? We'll have a report from Provo. And the Jazz released their injury report for tomorrow's game against the Clippers. And there's some good news. One key player not on the list.
Likely you saw it this weekend as the weather gets warmer. More motorcyclists are expected to be out on the roads.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold spoke with one rider about what can be done to keep everyone safe.
Riding motorcycles is a lifestyle for Carl Baird.
It's been going on for 30 plus years for myself and my family.
Baird is a co-owner of the Chapel Motorcycle Shop in Murray. He says in his years riding, he's seen the good, the bad.
Handlebars aren't supposed to break.
And unfortunately, the ugly.
My brother and business partner got hit right next to me. It was his bike, or it was him or my bike. We've been first to respond to countless accidents.
According to the Utah Highway Safety Office, in 2021, there were more than 1,100 crashes involving motorcycles. That resulted in 13 people dying on a bike, 41 altogether. With ridership increasing in the warmer months, numbers show that crashes also go up. Last year, the Utah Highway Safety Office says there were 66 crashes involving motorcycles in the month of March. Those numbers peaking in June at 177. Utah Highway Patrol tells me the biggest thing it comes down to is people being distracted and not focused when they're driving.
We got to try to eliminate those as much as possible.
Sergeant Cameron Roden with Utah Highway Patrol says there are several things both motorists and motorcycle riders can do to keep them both safe when they're out on the road.
For the motorcyclists, it's important for them to get the appropriate driver's education, rider's education, give themselves the best chance of, making sure that they're riding properly. But then drivers too, to make sure that they're being driving aware, driving focused, and looking out for the other motorists, such like motorcycles.
It's a sentiment echoed by riders like Baird.
I would just beg everybody to pay attention, drive with your eyes open, and be accountable. Take responsibility when you're on the road.
In Murray, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Okay, you should tell us something that's on your vision board. Leaving people behind. Yes. Beautiful.
Today, some future female leaders got the chance to meet some powerful women in Utah. It was all part of the Utah Jazz's Her Time to Lead seminar. As part of Women's History Month, the Jazz, they've been working with young women all throughout the state. And today, I got to see the work they're doing firsthand.
Don't stop learning. Don't stop seeking knowledge because it's going to help you as you grow.
That is Andrea Williams. She is the Chief Experience Officer for the Utah Jazz, a woman who has seen many historic firsts in her sports career and in her work behind the scenes. As part of the Jazz's 4th annual Her Time to Lead Empowerment Seminar, Williams and other leaders, including women from the Utah Division of Multicultural Affairs and the Voices for Utah Children organization, spoke to female students at Hunter High School today. They talked about the power they have and how to keep nourishing that power.
To be in a room full of fellow leaders like myself, it is inspiring to be able to see us come together and be confident in ourselves and our abilities.
Her Time to Lead really goes into that theme of allowing yourself to not see, the other woman or the other young leader next to you or across the table from you as competition, but as an ally.
As part of the seminar, the young women worked on vision boards, and they were full of positive messages to themselves and goals that will take them to the next step of becoming leaders.
Also today, in a separate event, another of Utah's most powerful women, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, spoke to some Utah students. Now, these students are part of the Center for Advanced Professional Studies program at Wasatch High School in Summit County. The CAPS program, that's in Wasatch County. The CAPS program helps students complete real-world projects with the help of industry partners and state leaders, such as Lieutenant Governor Henderson herself.
We've got some working with the Department of Natural Resources on projects, some doing a business course, some doing healthcare. So this is real experiential learning.
The CAPS program is open to any junior or senior at Wasatch High School. Also, local businesses can join the program to help these students gain even more experience. To apply for the program or to provide an opportunity, go to fox13now.com.
Well, it's a beautiful sunset earlier this evening. We'll have another day tomorrow with more chances for storms. But check out this great picture Chris Williams posted in our Facebook group, Utah's Weather Authority, from South Jordan tonight. What a scene. Now, we still have some very gusty conditions, mostly down towards southeast Utah, Moab, down to Blanding, about 30 to 40 miles per hour. Calming down this evening, it will become breezy again tomorrow afternoon. Then any areas of thunderstorms developing, those areas will also see a better chance for some strong gusty winds. So for tomorrow morning when you wake up, 6 a.m. mostly cloudy, 8 a.m. mostly cloudy, temperatures right around 50 degrees. By 10 o'clock in the morning, that's when we're going to start seeing some showers developing. Then we'll see some thunderstorms. An area of low pressure off the coast of Southern California moving in, and here's what we're tracking right now here across northern Utah. Mainly just areas of breezy conditions, about 10 to 15 miles per hour. And then we're seeing quite a bit of lightning on the north end of the Great Salt Lake right now, tracking a line of thunderstorms approaching Tremont. And right now we've seen a lot of lightning with this over the last hour or so, so it's still capable of producing a little bit of that. But overall, tomorrow afternoon will be your best chance for thunderstorms across Utah. But tonight, we're going to continue tracking those mainly into southern and eastern Utah. I'll show you in just a second. But by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, temperatures will be right around 40 to 45 for Provo, Eagle Mountain, Tooele, Salt Lake, Ogden. And then those temperatures by tomorrow afternoon will be much more comfortable. Mid-50s, scattered thunderstorms. Ogden, 58 degrees. By tomorrow afternoon in Provo, 55 degrees with a chance for some showers. And then into central and southern Utah, 50 in Cedar City, rain, maybe even some snow mixing in at times. Richfield, 52 for a high, and for St. George, 61 degrees. So tomorrow, eastern Utah, Moab, 58, Price, 57, Vernal, 54 degrees with some scattered thunderstorms. And then let me show you this futurecast for tonight, because tonight we'll have some heavy rainfall into southeastern Utah near the Four Corners. Look at that near Blanding. We'll see some areas of some scattered thunderstorms across eastern Utah. This is at 4 o'clock in the morning down towards southwest Utah, but better chance for some more widespread thunderstorms developing into the afternoon hours tomorrow. So across the region, we'll have unsettled weather. This quickly dries out. Thursday, we see another very weak storm moving through. Then we'll have some nice conditions for you for the majority of the weekend. Could see a few scattered showers here or there this weekend, but over the next 3 days, the amount of rain that we're tracking here across Utah is mainly less than half of an inch of rain. So the areas of green that you're seeing will be less than half of an inch of rain. We could end up with 5 to 10 inches of snow for our mountains above 8,000 feet. And then for St. George, you're close to 60 degrees for Tuesday, Wednesday 74, Thursday 73, close to 80 this weekend. Things look like they're going to stay dry and warm through the first week and a half of April. Now for the Wasatch Front, 55 tomorrow, 60 on Wednesday, close to 60 through Friday. And then we're going to have those temperatures close to 70 by Saturday.
Donovan Mitchell is available to play tomorrow when the Jazz wrap up their 6-game road trip against the Clippers. He was not listed on the Jazz injury report after twisting his ankle on Sunday. Mitchell had his ankle stepped on midway through the third quarter against the Mavericks. He did return to play in that game before checking out for good when the game was out of reach in the fourth quarter. But after getting it checked out today, Mitchell is good to go tomorrow against the Clippers as the Jazz try to end their 4-game losing streak. Jazz will be without backup center Hassan Whiteside, but Greg Monroe expected to join the team tomorrow, and Rudy Gobert and Bojan Bogdanovic and Daniel House Jr. have all been upgraded to questionable. NBA games of interest for the Jazz tonight. The Denver Nuggets beat the Charlotte Hornets 113-109. The Nuggets are now just a half game behind the Jazz for the 5th spot in the Western Conference. Memphis Grizzlies tightened their hold on second place in the West with a 123-95 win over the Golden State Warriors. They had a 5-game lead now after winning 5 straight and 9 of their last 10 games. Southern Utah played Fresno State in the semifinals of the Basketball Classic. Harrison Butler with the throwdown for the Thunderbirds. But it's the Bulldogs who ended up on top. Fresno State won it 65-48, ending Southern Utah's run. Spring football wrapping up for BYU. Fox 13's Andrea Urban was in today's practice. Has more with the Cougars in Provo.
It's the final week of spring ball for BYU football. Just 2 practices left. A lot was accomplished, but they aren't settled yet.
The energy is through the roof every day. I think that's part of returning an entire offense and an entire defense. We've been around each other a long time. I think, we're getting sick of each other having to go every day, so it gets really fun. It gets really competitive. We've got a lot of good stuff, but we're not satisfied yet. We got a lot to work on still. A lot of ways that we can clean things up, but we're on the right path.
It was really productive for us. There was a lot of competition, especially on offense and the offensive line. Everybody was playing harder because reps really matter. We've still got 2 more days. There's more work to be done. So we're just in the mindset of we have so much to improve upon. The list is so long of things that we need to get better at. We have 2 more days to try to implement those things before we start preparing for the fall.
We got a really tough team, dudes with good character who do it for their brothers, and that's what makes it really worth the grind.
BYU wraps up the week with an alumni game, and then we'll see them back on the gridiron in the fall. With the Cougars, Andrea Urban, Fox 13 Sports.
A lot of those former Cougars are getting really excited for that alumni game. Stuff on social media.
That's going to be fun.
Let's hope they survive and it all works out.
What alumni year are we talking here?
Varies.
1947.
Blast from the past, some of them. Right. Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back. Finally, Kelly, Utah was just ranked as the least stressed state in the country.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Gosh. Well, that's good to know. I didn't pull down their ranking too much. You know me.
Yeah. High-strung much? Yeah. Wallet Hub examined the stress categories of work, money, family, health, and safety. Utah was in the work and family-related stress categories. Louisiana was the most stressed.
High-strung. I see.
Sorry.
Stick around. Quick Cast is next.